BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. March Madness is upon us. BetOnline has you covered for all the news, scores, and highlights, and is the best way to place your bets, and it's free to sign up. Head to the website betonline.ag or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. All right, folks, this is Jeremy Evans, your host of the Believe in Sports Law podcast via the Believe Podcast Network. We are glad to be with you today. Always appreciate you listening in. Today we have a very special guest for this is episode 14 of season 3, and this is Monday, April 5th, 2021. And our very special guest is Wally Crittenden, and he is the Assistant Athletic Director for Ticketing and Business Development at Stephen F. Austin University in Nacogdoches, Texas. And hopefully I got that correct. But
yeah, man, absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Wally. And Wally is such a great guy, and he's agreed to come on the show. And just a couple highlights about Wally that I wanna mention to you. So to our listeners out there. So again, as I mentioned, he's the Assistant Athletic Director for Ticketing and Business Development. He was formerly the head coach for the soccer team there. And then obviously just a little background on Stephen F. Austin University. They play in the Southland Conference, which includes Abilene Christian University, which just had somewhat of a Cinderella run in beating the University of Texas at Austin. And they also played UCLA. But the Lady Jacks basketball team actually won the championship for the Southland Conference. And the great thing about Wally, in addition to all the other things that he's got going on and some of his many successes that he's had in sport management, is that Stephen F. Austin University is the first university to release an NFT, which is sort of all the craze now, the non-fungible token, if you will. And they released one, but they also had a really, really cool way in how they released it. And it wasn't necessarily for profit. It was just, really to be a part of history. And I'll let Wally kind of explain how they went about it. But Wally, really appreciate you being here, and welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jeremy. No, I was excited to get the invite. I've followed you for a while now and enjoy your content. And I think it'll be a great conversation.
No, thanks so much. So Wally's got a great background. He's got a master's in education from the University of Nebraska. He's got his bachelor's of education in sport management from Florida International University, both great schools. And then you got a PhD too, Wally, or?
I don't. I started that PhD here at Stephen F. And just with all the demands from COVID this past fall, put that on hold. But all intentions are to continue that on when it makes sense, for sure.
No, that's great. And it's just such a great university. It's so funny. It's like, for being a smaller school, I've heard of you guys. I think the name alone, I think, is just a great name, right? And I always love basketball season because you really get to see a bigger picture of the country, right?
No doubt.
And it's like, you get your Oral Roberts and your Stephen F. Austins. Like, these are, to me, I just love it. And of course, I love the name of the women's basketball team and the women's sports and the Lady Jacks. It's just such a great name, right?
It is. I tell you, Stephen F. has a great tradition, a great athletic community around it that really supports our Jacks, whether they're on the court or on the field. And our Lady Jack basketball program has been a historical contender at the highest levels of Division I. Got a great coaching tree that extends out to many Power 5 programs to this day. And obviously our men's basketball program has had decades of success, with the coaches that have come through and done a great job there. But, as you look across the athletic department as a whole, and I don't want to mention them all because I'll leave someone out, but, our track and field program is fantastic. Our soccer program has been doing really, really good things. Volleyball is always, at the top of the league competing. So, as we position ourselves for this great move into the WAC next year, I think it's a lot of really good things coming together at the right time.
Oh, that's so great, Wally. One of the things that one of the questions I love to ask, because I'm always fascinated, and I know that the listeners are always fascinated, is maybe a little bit of your background. How did you get your start in sports? Was it a passion of yours? Did you grow up playing, a sport, and sort of maybe talk a little bit about some of the work that you're doing now at Stephen F. Austin?
Sure. So from a background standpoint, grew up in Texas and Houston, played competitive soccer, was fortunate to play at a pretty high level. Went and continued that career down at Florida International University down in Miami. Great experience, great program, great department, doing really good things. Came back to Texas and actually began as a high school English teacher for a couple of years, and really enjoyed that. And then at that point began the coaching kind of movement, where we started at Oklahoma as the assistant coach for the soccer program there, moved up to Nebraska, where I got my master's degree and was able to be a part of some pretty innovative programming there, with related to the Nebraska Sports Institute, which we're proud of, and then moved down to College Station and was an assistant there, and then got the head job opportunity here at Stephen F. Back in I think it was January 2013, if I'm not mistaken, and have been here ever since, and have enjoyed every minute of it.
Oh, that's great. And then with your current role, at Stephen F. Austin University, with regard to being an assistant AD for ticketing and business development, what does that look like for you there at the university?
It's a great challenge. The opportunity presented, and really for the last 5 years or so, I've kind of been drifting towards the administrative side of things. I've enjoyed coaching, and been a part of some very good teams that have had good seasons and done some great things, worked with some great athletes. But I had a natural draw to the administration side because of the ability to impact things at a greater scale, right? And an opportunity opened up, and it just fits. The timing just fit for me to slide into this role, and the challenge was one to help rebuild and grow and really optimize our ticketing platform that we have here, and move into a mobile ticketing direction, which was a great challenge, and that was a bunch of fun. And so now the goal is, from a business development, from a non-traditional revenue generation opportunities, from a licensing opportunities, what can we do? Can we think critically? Can we be creative in identifying and creating these new revenue streams? And so that's where a lot of my efforts and energies are now, along with making sure that our ticketing platform, is still performing at a high level.
Well, that's great. And then, of course, Wally, you're a humble guy, but I'll brag a little bit for you. So 2013, 14, and 15, you were the Southland Conference Coach of the Year. And then also in 2012, you received the Nebraska Young Alumni Award. So congrats to you on those. And I think it clearly just highlights your ability and some of the really cool things that you guys are doing. And then, of course, now you're a part of and the head of the Sports Institute there, right, as well, at the university?
Yeah. So what we created here, and I appreciate the kind words. I've been fortunate to work with some really, really special mentors and some people that set great examples currently here. But one of I think the greatest influences I had was being around the University of Nebraska athletic department when Coach Osborne came back. That was a very, very influential time, on me as an administrator, and certainly, what Coach Osborne modeled and the way that he did things set a great example. So, when we were up at Nebraska, we started the Nebraska Sports Institute, myself and 4 other guys who were very talented, and it was a core component of our master's program. And basically it made the argument that, with $150+ million budgets, athletic departments really needed to get to a position where they created in-house research and development divisions. so that any innovation that's on campus that leverages athletic facilities, that leverages athletes as population groups, any affiliate agreements that are established with third-party entities that are connected to the athletic department in a way, any cross-departmental revenue sharing due to grant writing that is awarded, again, to study our population group within the athletic department. There needed to be a structure in place because I felt that there were revenues that were being lost. And I think if you look at overall research and development budgets for campus-wide departments, many of those research and development budgets do not include the athletic department, but many times those studies do involve athletes, administrators, and that really special population group, which is an elite athlete. People want them to be a part of what they're doing. And so we did that in Nebraska, and was able to come down here. And in 2014, started the Lumberjack Sports Institute. And that's something I've been leading, ever since. And, we offer a youth leadership institute to our community members. Certainly this past 12 months, that's been put on hold a bit. But along with that, we want to make sure that any research requests, any access to athletes, anytime there's a survey or something that may even get approved on campus, we still want to get athletic department eyes on it to make sure that it fits the right time period based on, are our coaches heading into postseason? Are they going into preseason? Or is it a great time for research participation in the off season? And so those are some of the things that the Institute does. And then, kind of some of the more experimental topics like tokenization and things like that, we're able to kind of insulate risk and kind of separate ourselves from the athletic department to experiment and try things that perhaps we couldn't do if we were, under athletic department walls, if you will.
Right. Which brings up a really good point, because I noticed that first of all, I love the branding with regard to the university, the sort of the purple coloring, which, I mean, it's a beautiful campus.
It is.
The purple flowers, the purple coloring of the branding, and it's interesting too, because the name, where the city is, it's sort of southeast of Dallas and kind of northeast of Houston. The name, and it's so funny to me, like I've been to Louisiana so many times, but the name reminds me of a town in Louisiana. Like, and it's probably because it's so close to the border, right? It seems like a street name you'd see in Louisiana.
I'll tell you, Natchitoches, if that may be what you're referring to in Louisiana, but so there's history there. And we have a rivalry in Chief Caddo. And the story goes that Chief had two sons and sent one son to Nacogdoches and one son to Natchitoches. And that's how that rivalry began. And that's how kind of that geographical rivalry just continues to live through is for the Battle of the Chief. So there is a bit of history there.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. As soon as I saw the name too, I was like, oh my gosh, that reminds me of like a street name or a school name in
Sure.
And of course it makes sense too, because they're so close to each other. You're what the city is, I mean, maybe 20, 30 minutes from the border of Louisiana. Is it pretty close?
A little further than that, depending on where you go. I mean, for instance, you got great outdoors fishing and recreation in Toledo Bend. Probably call it a good solid hour and a half. And so it just depends on what part of the border you go, but you're typically looking at about an hour and a half.
Wow. Okay. And then the university, just real quick before we get into, I want to talk about the SFA athletic token program that you guys have, and then we'll get into NFT.
Sure.
But what's the history of the university? Stephen F. Austin, is this can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. No, it's from an independent institution, so we're not part of any other system, if you will. So we do take a lot of pride in the fact that we're an independent institution. We are set here in Nacogdoches, which is the oldest town in Texas. We do take pride in that, and from an athletic standpoint, from an institutional standpoint, being a teacher's college, first and foremost, that has been what Stephen F. has kind of hung their hat on, in the past, and where we're heading now with our improvements and infrastructure for STEM research. We've got some amazing facilities and making some great headway in programming along the STEM lines. We just launched a new aviation program. And so we really, with regards to the Lumberjack Sports Institute, one of the taglines is we really want to be the sports hub of all of East Texas, right? And so Stephen F. as an institution really takes a lot of pride in access, community development, and really disseminating information into our deep East Texas and regional community. And so it's a great place to live. It's a great place to grow up, and we're doing a lot of good things.
That's so cool. So let's take a quick, Wally, if you don't mind, take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be right back. We'll talk about the token system at SFA, and then we'll talk about the NFT and get into some really exciting stuff. Okay, thanks, Wally. Want to give a brief moment to talk about our newest sponsor, eBay. Whether rare dead stock or the latest release, find the exact shoe you're looking for. As the original sneaker marketplace, eBay is the place to go to grab the pair you've been looking for. With eBay's authenticity guarantee, your sneakers are meticulously inspected by independent professional authenticators. A team of experienced sneaker authenticators verify the box, logo, stitching, and dozens of other inspection points. Each sneaker also receives an authenticity guarantee tag that includes a digital stamp of authenticity. It also protects sellers with a verified return process. And for sneaker sellers out there, eBay has eliminated selling fees on sneakers of $100 or more, making it free to sell or trade in your latest collection. Go to ebay.com/sneakers today. eBay, the world's best destination for discovering great value and unique selection. All right, Wally, we're back. And it's funny, going through that last commercial reminded me a lot of NFTs and
sure,
with the verification process and everything else, right?
Yeah.
Oh man. But so let's talk a little about the SFA athletic token system. I think this is fantastic. And I think this is something that not a lot of other schools are doing. Can you talk a little bit about what that program is?
Sure. So in the early spring, late winter is another way to call it, of 2018. I began to kind of get into this, the crypto space, not just from an investment standpoint, which I had been in a little bit earlier, got in really about 2015 from an investment standpoint, but from a utility standpoint and from a technology standpoint, and how can this technology impact stop gaps and fulfillment and friction points, pain points that we have within intercollegiate athletics. And so what we did is we began by in the spring of 18 downloading and working with some key constituents here that we trust, that we want direct and honest feedback with, that would enjoy being a part of a pilot, right? And we had third-party wallets, and we sat in venue. We sat. Some of these trials took place out at youth soccer fields, because I think there's applications beyond college athletics. And we began to kind of send and receive tokens and kind of get feedback on the utility and if they would want to participate with this. And then the feedback we got was really, really positive. It was more questions of how it would look, and really at that time, the big thing was, can we brand it, right? And so that led to us creating two tokens: the SFA Athletics token and the SFA Golden Jack token. And the SFA Athletics token was still part of that pilot and trial. It's still live today. The program is not contracted with the university as of yet. There's a lot of considerations that any institution must make before contracting that. But from a pilot standpoint, the pilot went really well. The SFA Athletics token allowed for that branded experience in wallet. The SFA Golden Jack allowed for us to distribute special tokens for really premium benefits, and we've got ideas on where we want to go with that. But then the next challenge was, and this is just early on, in the crypto space as a whole, and so people are looking at things in different ways, and everyone has their own perspective, which is great. But from my perspective, a lot of times you get these tokens in your wallets that you have nothing to do with, you don't want to see, the equivalent of spam mail, right? And so for me as an administrator, looking at the ability to replicate this, to scale it out, to execute, and to grow a fan experience as opposed to diminish equity that has been built with our fans, we had to get rid of that. We had to figure out a way, and the way was to be the first fan app that included a blockchain-based token wallet. And so my company, Modern Sports Group, we began a year and a half ago or so, and we now have launched two, and the Fan Block will have its own app, and it actually is in beta right now. And it's more of a private beta. It's moved out of alpha, but we haven't invited public guests just yet. But and so what that allows for is a branded fan app quality experience. So your light shows, your social feeds, your push notifications, your branding, everything that you would come to expect with a brand management tool, which is a fan app. But it also includes a wallet that we have built into that functionality. So it allows our fans to only see that institution's tokens, because we basically whitelisted them so that no other spam tokens can show up. And so that was really good. We actually have that in place right now. The Boys and Girls Club of Deep East Texas, which really is a decentralized organization, and the fact that, yes, they have kind of a central operating hub, but each separate division, which there are 6 that account for over 3,000 families, are spread about all across Deep East Texas. And they're one of our clients, and then we have our local soccer club that is one of our kind of beta clients, or pilot clients, if you will. And there's all kind of reasons for those tokens. I'll just give you, before we get to the NFTs, one use case that I think is the most powerful, right, is it's not a question of, can you Venmo someone? Sure. It's not a question of, can you send money other ways? The question is, for me, what can we do in a branded environment? And 2, how can we ensure the integrity of the intent of that transaction? So Jeremy, if I give you $10 in Venmo, if you reach out to me at 10 o'clock at night, like some of our young people do, and say, hey, I can't eat, can you give me $10 to go get something to eat? Well, Jeremy, I can Venmo you $10. But I don't know if you're going to use that $10 to go get something to eat, or you're going to go to the street corner.
Right.
When we tokenize this, and part of our tokenization is that our sponsors, which Chick-fil-A is the sponsor of both the first 2 apps. You can download them in the App Store and see that. But so 25 tokens gets you a Chick-fil-A sandwich right now here in Nacogdoches. And so if I send you 25 tokens, you're not going to be able to redeem that on the street corner, but you are going to be able to redeem that at Chick-fil-A. So it helps ensure the integrity of the intent. And that's powerful. I mean, that is really powerful, a tool for social change and to help communities improve. And that's just one use case.
Wow. No, I love that. I love how you walked me through that too, and the listeners as well, because I learned a lot just from going through that with you. And it's interesting looking at the NFT, the non-fungible token things that are sort of the highlight of all sports right now. And was it rapper Ja Rule just released a NFT the other day, a piece of art that he put together and sold it for $220,000. So can you kind of walk us through a little bit, like what is an NFT in the sports side, and then how did Stephen F. Austin University, and particularly the Lady Jacks, really come forward with this NFT, and what does that look like?
Sure. So from an NFT standpoint, it's just another, um, you have different tokens that have different capabilities, right? The tokens I described to you earlier are known as TRC10 tokens, right? And they're very basic tokens that really the focus should be redemption and distribution. It's fast, it's easy. Maybe you have a rewards program, but then you have tokens that interact within smart contracts. And the NFT is one of those smart contract enabled tokens. And why that's important is because you're able to program elements into that token that really, to my knowledge, we've not had opportunities to program such robust transactions that would be automated and managed by the blockchain. And so one of the use cases that we see with NFTs is, we've got some fantastic creative social video, just some really creative elements that are put out every day by our teams across the country, but they're quickly lost in social feeds. I put out a tweet yesterday or whatnot, said if I gave you 10 seconds to find your favorite moment from greater than 10 days ago, I don't know if you could do it within 10 seconds. And as a fan, if I want to see something that is my favorite, man, I got 10 seconds, 15 seconds. I want that fan to not have any obstacles to find what they want. And searching through a stream, a social stream, is we can do better. And I think the NFT allows that, because if you really like that moment, then you have that moment shown in your token wallet in our fan app. And then you can interact with that moment, watch that moment, and you found it as quickly as you can, tap a button. That's just one example, though. Another example that we're looking at, and we will most likely pilot this semester, is NFTs as promotional giveaways. So instead of going to a game and getting a T-shirt, what if we were able to airdrop, 250 tokens, NFT moments, to the first 250 fans instead of a T-shirt, and now you have that moment in your wallet, in your fan app. You're able to interact with it because you came to that game. You got that specific moment. Whereas if you do T-shirts, you may have that same T-shirt given out for 3 different games until you run out of your inventory, right? So it allows for you to have an experience with your fans the way that you want to guide that experience that night. And then there's certainly the revenue generating the pieces, which we can talk about if you like, that there are earnings at scale that will have implications even greater than, as we sit here today, that we know, for creating revenue for creatives, as well as athletes, as well as artists. So there's just so much that we can do, and there are a lot of people doing some really good stuff right now in this space.
Wow. Yeah, no, I love and it's a combination, really. The power of NFTs are in the blockchain technology, right? It's the ability to confirm what it is and its value. And when you think about like trading cards, for example, you can go to like an official, authenticator, right? And you can say, is this an official card? But to be able to have immediate access to sort of an official, sort of note to say, this is the official NFT, this is the one and only, I think is very powerful, like you're talking about. But, and then you also, right, from social media and Google standpoint, if I wanted to see a picture of the Taj Mahal, right, I could go Google Taj Mahal, but to have like an official image of it and to say, this is the one and only, it's kind of a cool thing to do. I guess looking forward, maybe, Wally, let's talk a little bit about like the monetization aspect that you were mentioning.
Sure.
And what that looks like, particularly like in the name, image, and likeness space, but then also, sort of like the broader question, which has been put forth by so many economists and everybody else, is, is this NFT thing here to stay, or is it something that we're going to kind of see go by the wayside?
Sure. No, so, and you mentioned it in your previous statement about having an authenticated image of the Taj Mahal. I mean, first and foremost, I'm a believer that the next step for NFTs, specifically in the collegiate athletics market, and I will also tell you one of the markets that is not getting enough attention at the moment is the high school and youth sports market. I've already had 3 different families reach out for NFTs to be minted. One of them is a high school, athlete, and then 2 of them are U12, I think they are. So the deal is this: is you've got to be able to have a curated marketplace. I'm a big believer in this, and right now you have some really fantastic open marketplaces, and I'm not going to call any of them by name because they all do good things. But from my standpoint, again, if brand management is the most important thing, what I cannot have is I cannot have a fan who is going to look for athletic content go to an open marketplace and come across peripheral content that maybe they shouldn't be experiencing because of their age or their preferences or whatnot, right? And so for me, if we're going to do this, it needs to be a curated marketplace. The second thing is, we've got to figure out a licensing platform, and I know those conversations are ongoing right now. And as an institutional fundraiser like the one we did, does that have to be licensed by an external third party? I don't know. Some people would probably say no. However, if we took a different approach and it was pure revenue generation, and maybe we're selling NFTs the same way another company sells T-shirts, right? Well, then certainly that would need to be a license by a third party aggregator, if you will. So I think we've got to figure out those solutions. I think we've got to really make sure we get the curated marketplace right for a lot of reasons. And then, from there, once we get those things ironed out, and I will tell you, I think that's going to happen sooner rather than later. I think that you're going to see, NBA Top Shop, that level of service, which is fantastic. It's a great model. I will tell you that is a great inspiration to the next round of products that are released, including ours. But that's a closed marketplace, right? That is NBA, that is branded. Then you have your entire other end of the spectrum, which is totally open. There's going to be something in between that has to be viable. And there are a lot of smart people out there to do that. So I think both of those things will happen sooner rather than later. And then you can get into some really interesting layered conversations on, payment splitter tools and extensions to smart contracts, where now you can automate, annual royalties or royalties in the secondary marketplace every time that item is sold and resold, to benefit perhaps artists, but also maybe it's in internal athletic department creatives who are really creating the content that is driving that institution's NFT ecosystem. Is there a way to incentivize them with that split? And then of course you have your NIL conversations where, should the athlete who does the dunk, or the athlete who catches the touchdown pass or scores the goal, should they be in a position to have automatic, 2% of every time that item is resold? And those are going to be great debates for sure.
Yeah. No, and Wally, I've got so much respect for you and your guys' program and what you're doing. You mentioned it earlier, being an independent school is so difficult in itself, right? And going out and trying new things, doing different things. And I love that, conferences that are not part of, let's say, the Power Five get these huge highlights. And albeit it's only once a year, but it's nice to sort of to have the school sort of highlighted, and you guys are doing some really cool things. And And it's really, I think, kind of where the marketplace is heading, right? I mean,
That's right.
if you look at, like, I did an article 2 weeks ago talking about the overtime elite league and having 16, 17, 18 year olds from high school avoid playing high school sports, still obviously getting an education, but then playing in like a private league and sort of having money from it. And if sort of kid actors can do it, why can't kid athletes do it?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, in
Mm-hmm.
California, they have these things called Coogan accounts, where you basically, the parents have to put away the money in a trust and save the money for the children. So there's ways to do it. And then, of course,
Absolutely.
if there's ways, like if you look at like the Professional Pathways program with the G League and this conversation on NIL and the Alston case. I mean, you are so right, Wally, and you're ahead of the pack. And I just love what you're doing. And I just did all the praise in the world for what you guys got going on there.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, we don't have all the answers, but I will tell you that we're pushing the tech forward. We're taking a fan-centric approach to this to reduce the friction, that is currently in the onboarding process. And so I think we have some really good solutions for that. But I tell you what, the other example I'll give you. So Abilene Christian, right? ACU upset UT, right? So a month after March Madness ends, on a national scale, that game may be talked about very little, right? But within Abilene Christian's ecosystem, within their fan group, within that community, that game will be celebrated, not just talked about, celebrated for the next 20 years. Under the current licensing, components, or I guess structure is a better word, ACU is not going to be able to capitalize that because all those rights are owned by the NCAA. And
Right.
so does the NFT allow for an ability for institutions to write this into game guarantees in the future? Hey, if I'm going to go play a Power 5 school in a non-conference game, can I include in the game guarantee, I want to have rights to your digital production so that I can create NFTs? We're not going to replicate the broadcast, but we are going to want rights to create NFT moments. I think those are all the things that we got to shake out and work through, because there's opportunities there for everyone to realize revenue.
I couldn't agree more. And it's always funny, what's the old quote? Necessity is the mother of all invention. And
Hey,
right. And as an independent, and I get it, because I started my own business. I get it. I'm not a part of a big conglomerate or anything. And you have to find ways to push things forward. And it's
absolutely.
often your ideas, sort of as a not a big 5 conference or a big sort of top 100 law firm, that you have to find ways to kind of push things forward. And those bigger companies end up following your lead. So again, I just applaud what you guys are doing, and I'll look forward to
Appreciate it.
seeing some additional NFTs come out from Stephen F. Austin.
There will be more. That's right. I mean, I think the way it was received, our fans are asking great questions. They're ready for an app to interact with. And like I said, the Fan Block app itself is going to be, we're days away from that. And that will allow people to really see how they can actually interact with NFTs in a fan branded experience. So we'll see where it goes, Jeremy, but it's been good so far.
No, well, thanks, Wally. I appreciate your time, and I know you're a busy man, and I really just loved the conversation, and I'm sure the listeners will feel the same way. And again,
Likewise.
just thanks again. So to all the listeners out there, appreciate you listening in. This has been Wally Crittenden, who is the associate director for business development at Stephen F. Austin University in Nacogdoches, Texas. Hopefully I got both of those right, Wally.
But, we getting there, man. Keep going.
All right. Hey, the more we do these, I'm going to get those names correct. All right.
No, that's right. No, we'll definitely do it again.
All right. Well, thanks again, Wally. I look forward to being with you soon.
Excellent. Thanks, Jeremy. Have a good day.
You too. It's time to make your outdoor experiences better with Canon. Canon sunglasses are made exclusively with polarized lenses for optimal clarity. They're made with Japanese optics that make their lenses clearer, lighter, stronger, and Italian handcrafted frames that are impossible to scratch. Use the exclusive code CANONCAST15 at canon.com to receive 50% off your first pair. Again, that's CANONCAST15 on canon.com. Canon, clearly better.